You're muted, Wendy. I can see you talking.
They're talking to each other. It's the secret conversation because they're in the same room.
You have to cover your mouth with a baseball mitt if you're going to.
All right, our live stream has started. So we will take a few minutes here just to, until we get the word from Beth, and then we'll get rolling here.
I was muted. Justin, just a reminder not to show the chat in the live stream, okay? Thank you. So Mike, you just want to kind of do introduction or welcome and introductions, and then
Yep, I believe the live stream has already started here, so I can go ahead and get rolling. Is that true, Jordan? Or Justin?
Yeah, it's on.
All right, very good. Thank you. First of all, my name is Mike Scott, Superintendent of the Hillsboro School District. And we are sorry we cannot do these coffee chats, as we refer to them, in person. We've had the opportunity to do that several times over the last years, and we've always found incredibly helpful for us to not only get to have the opportunity to hear from parents, but to provide some information as well. So today we have an hour set aside where we are going to be monitoring the chat, and we will be able to answer any questions that you might have. I have a number of people here that are going to be available to help us answer some of those questions, and we can kind of move on from there. Why don't we plan on not doing introductions right now, with the exception of the board members that are here, and then we can introduce ourselves as we have the opportunity to throw questions your way. So if we could plan on doing that, I think that would probably be the best way to go about it. We do have some board members that are here with us this morning. I see Martin Granum on the screen, and he is all over town all the time, so most people probably recognize him. I'm looking down my list here. I also see Yadira Martinez, who's been a board member for the last several years and is very involved in the community as well. I think those are the two board members that we currently have available on the screen. And then we have a variety of staff members who, like I said, will introduce themselves as we get going here. While we have an opportunity to start gathering questions in the chat, I think I'm just going to kick it off with a question that we oftentimes get. And that question is, when do you think we're going to return to in-person learning? And if we have the opportunity to do that, what exactly is that going to look like? So let me just take a minute and outline that for us, because that's a pretty common question that all of us get. So we are obligated to follow the metrics that have been laid out by Oregon Health Authority, the governor's office, as well as Oregon Department of Education. And those metrics have certain numbers that we have to meet before we can do in-person learning. And right now we're pretty well off from meeting those metrics in terms of the number of positive cases of COVID in the community per 100,000. The number is 30. If we get at 30 or below, then we have the opportunity to come to K3 students back. And that would likely be in a hybrid model, which would be part-time in person, part-time online. I want to say that this last week we were at 46 or 47 was the number. And we have to reach that metric of 30 per 100,000 for 3 weeks in a row. So what that would look like for us is that when we get to the point where we're meeting those metrics of 30 or below, and we are able to do that for a 3-week period, we will be able to see the horizon and be able to see that coming at us. And then we will likely have a 2-week period in which there will be a transition of sorts. That will give the teachers an opportunity to get into their classrooms and set up. So during that 2 weeks, we'll still have comprehensive distance learning, but that will give us the opportunity to get the classroom set up, prepare for the students, make sure that we have all of the protocols in order so that we can start to welcome students back in an in-person basis. Right now, we have defined this as a number of stages. So right now we're in stage 1 where all students are in comprehensive distance learning. The next stage would be stage 2, and we're looking to be able to do that to some degree in quarter 2. And that is where we have the opportunity to bring some students back in limited, and that would begin with a very small number of students, and it would primarily be students who's been unable to access instruction to the degree that we would like, oftentimes as outlined in an IEP for students. So that would be very limited a number of students that would be able to access the limited in-person that would begin in quarter 2. The third stage that we've identified is when we're able to bring our pre-kindergarten through 3rd grade students back, and we would have our 4th through 12th graders in distance learning. And we would have them remain in distance learning because there's another metric that is required for them to return to for those grade levels to return to in-person learning, and that is when it's all the way down to 10. So we are a ways off from doing that, of course. When we bring our students back to in-person learning, it will be a hybrid model that we will need to follow, and that allows us to keep class size at a small enough level so that we can exercise the safety protocols and meet the guidelines that the state has laid out. So that would likely look like we would have students coming back a couple days a week, and then be doing distance learning a couple days a week as well. Stage 4 would be that we would have the opportunity to bring our 4th through 12th graders back. Like I said, we've got a ways to go before that's possible with the number of positive cases that we're currently seeing in Washington County. And stage 5 would be that all students are back to in-person learning like we're used to. So like I said before, we will be able to see this coming and this transition opportunity coming, and it'll likely be a 5-week transition, 3 weeks of hitting the metrics, and then 2 weeks to communicate with the families to get class sizes, to get classes organized and ready to go. And then we would be back after really that 5-week window. So that is probably the most common question that I get. There is always the piece that goes with that. Hey, when do you think that's going to happen? And really that is totally based on the metrics, and it is so hard to speculate. We had a period of time about probably 6 weeks ago now where we saw the metrics start to come closer to 30. And then since that time, they've been going the other direction, and we've seen them increasing. It's hard to predict what the winter months are going to bring. There's a lot of people out there that believe our positive rates are going to be too high for a time here. So I would kick that off. I wanted to kick this off just by sharing that information. And at this point, I can turn it over to Beth to monitor the chat and to be able to pose the next question.
Well, a related question to that, Mike, would be why is Hillsboro School District not making some longer term projections like Beaverton and Portland, specifically about their students in grades 4 through 12? Can you explain our position on that?
Yeah, good question. So we know that there's been some districts around us that have already come out and made the announcement that they would not be returning to in-person instruction until semester 2, if the metrics allowed for that to happen. As a district, we have said all along that we will let the metrics drive our decision making, and we didn't want to be in a situation that if by some chance that the metrics improved radically in the next several weeks, we didn't want to preclude the opportunity to have our students return to in-person learning semester 1. So while we know that for some parents that may be a challenge, that they would like to know, hey, are we in or we out? We really didn't want to close the door on the opportunity to come back if at all possible. So that's why we have not made that announcement. I mentioned that 5-week window that it's going to take to transition back to in-person learning. And the later we go in the quarter, and as we approach second quarter, there will be a time here in the next probably 4 or 5 weeks where if the metrics don't improve, then we would go ahead and make that decision and be able to get that announcement out. But as for now, we are holding out hope that there is a possibility to come back to in-person as soon as possible, and that's why we've not made that announcement.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. A lot of people are concerned about the mental health of our students during comprehensive distance learning and while things are so upside down in the world. So could you please talk a little bit about what is being done to support students' mental health needs during this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to do that. And then I would like to turn that probably to Travis or Dale to give even more specifics. I don't think Brooke at this time. So, that's something that we're concerned about. We know that when you put students in a traumatic situation, such as a pandemic, you put on top of that some of the unrest that's happened across the nation, and kids notice that stuff and they absorb that stuff. And we're concerned about that. We know that when we get back to in-person learning, we're going to have to be really attentive to that, or we're going to have to make sure that we have in-person resources ready to go. Because I think we're going to have a number of students who have been through a traumatic event, and that will have impacted them in a way that they need some assistance. While we are now in our virtual setting, in our distance learning, we do have a number of resources that are ready to go as well. We have counselors that reach out to students on a regular basis. We have teachers that are monitoring that and sharing information with the administrators and the counselors. And even the topics that happen during morning meeting, those are centered around our desire to get students some of the resources that they need. We've got a number of resources that are posted online. If you look at our website, you can easily access those. We've had conversation with Washington County, who has a number of COVID-19 related counseling opportunities available to the community. Those can be made via email appointment, and you can find those on the Washington County site, as well as you can do the same thing on the district site by accessing the counselor at your school. Let me turn it over to one of our cabinet members who may have some more specifics on that.
Good morning. I'm Dale Spitzer. I'm Assistant Superintendent for Schools. And I would just add on that at the middle and high school level, we also have social emotional learning lessons that are in our advisories. So I know I'm a mom of a high schooler, and continue to encourage your student to get involved in those advisory lessons. Sometimes they are not as academically driven, but those social emotional lessons are really important. So encourage your child to participate in those. I think we also in Hillsboro School District for the last couple years have really tried to normalize and help students understand how important their mental health is and how much we are invested in their safety. Things like limiting social media time, making sure that your student has connections, showing up to their class is a great way to continue to connect with friends and adults who care for them. We have also had stickers that we have shared for mental health supports over the last couple of years, and those same resources apply. So hopefully your child already has a sticker on their computer where they can get an outside resource at any hour of the day if they just need to process and speak to someone. And then finally, I would just encourage parents, you are with your child all the time. And so if you see something concerning, you too can reach out to the counselor, your child's teacher or advisor. You definitely have more eyes on. And so we are just trusting in that partnership with you as you support your child at this time.
Thank you, Dale.
Thank you very much. A related question, a lot of people are equating the ability for students to get out and be active to their mental health. And we've been getting a lot of questions lately about the fact that HSD elementary playgrounds and playfields remain closed, even though the city has decided to open their playgrounds up. So could we maybe address the reasons why that is?
Yeah, thank you. I'll go ahead and start the answer on this, and then we'll have Casey provide additional detail. We do know that the city parks have made the decision to open their playgrounds. And when it comes to the expectations that school districts have in that statewide guidance that's been issued to us, we're very careful to follow that guidance, and we don't want to be in a position where we are picking and choosing which guidance to follow. We want to make sure that the guidance that is available to us really is a roadmap for the safe schools opening, and we want to make sure that we're following that. The guidance does spell out that you have to be able to ensure that students do not gather in groups of 10 or more on playgrounds. It also spells out that there has to be some cleaning protocols that take place. We're not in a position right now where we can assign staff to monitor and to supervise our playgrounds. And that's why we are in this situation of not being able to open them at this time. We do have some plans in Q2 to start offering some activities to high school students, and I can talk about that later. But let me turn it over to Casey for a minute in detail.
Yeah, good morning. Casey Waletich, Chief Operations Officer for the school district. Yeah, really Mike outlined the difference in where we are in a position. We're not in a position right now to meet several of the requirements for playgrounds and fields. One of the other things that we have, we know we have a lot of community members who like to use our tracks at our schools. And the reason we can't pick and choose the facilities that we open is because, a lot of times tracks are connected to large open fields. And we already are seeing an uptick in community members trying to gather on our sites and play soccer games or basketball, et cetera. And we're just not able to meet those requirements. We also have, solicited the opinion of some of our legal counsel on this, and they're advising, of course, that we need to be able to make sure we can meet all those requirements before we can open. And like Mike mentioned, the city staff just have more people available out and about on their properties to ensure where we just simply do not have the staff to do that.
All right, thank you. So on a related note, Casey, could you maybe talk a little bit about our plans for allowing high school athletics and activities to restart?
Yeah, thanks. Similarly, a lot of surrounding districts are beginning to open up some limited school participation for high school athletics. This is because there are different requirements outlined by the OSAA and OHA and the governor's office about a return to limited activities in cohorts. This would be a little bit similar to like how we would bring eventually a classroom back inside with cohorting groups of students in 25 or less. We are at this time working on plans to bring in some outside only limited athletic and activity opportunities in Q2. So we're ironing out those plans similar to, like I said, some other surrounding districts where we would be able to bring back students in a form or fashion to get together. Again, this would be supervised by adults, and we would have to follow all of the county and OHA health requirements as far as check-in, check-out, cohorting, temp and health checks prior to and following all of the outlined district procedures. So we feel confident that we're going to be able to meet those requirements and be able to bring back some limited athletic activity opportunities for students in the near future. Just as a reminder, the OSAA has outlined the Oregon School Activities Association, for those of you that aren't familiar with OSAA, that has a plan right now. Hopefully, if the metrics hold, that we are able to have some seasons of play starting after the holiday break.
Just to add on to that a little bit, it's the plan that's being developed by the high school athletic directors and Casey and some others would give students an opportunity to come in and do some physical activity or some training throughout a couple times a week, and we would rotate the various sports and activities and athletics groups through that schedule so that they would have access to the field. As he mentioned, right now we're looking at only doing that outdoors, and starting only with the high school students as well. The sports season that Casey mentioned, the OSAA has outlined a potential schedule, and of course this all depends on the metrics. And it may look different for Washington, Clackamas, and Multnomah counties than it does for some of our rural school districts that are out there. So the outline right now is to have 7-week seasons. So they would be abbreviated seasons, and then they would have a culmination week of some type. And the way that would work is that in the first 7 weeks, and that would happen later this winter if the metrics allow, we would start with the winter sports and then transition to the typical fall sports and then move on to the spring sports. We know that participation in athletics and activities, whether that's band or that's volleyball or whatever the athletic or a sport, the athletic or activity that you're involved in, we know that's incredibly important for our students. And for our students to be missing out on that's a significant loss, and we understand that. We're hopeful that the schedule that OSAA has outlined is going to be something that the metrics allow us to participate in. We would love to provide those opportunities for our students and get them back together in teams into their activity groups as well.
All right, thank you. So Q2 for high school athletics and activities. Look for more information. Sounds good. So I know that we've got a number of administrators from our student services team on this meet, and there have been a few questions coming in from parents of students on IEPs, and they've expressed some frustration with the comprehensive distance learning model and trying to get their students the support they need. So can you just talk a little bit about what all your team and your staff are doing for students with special needs to help make them successful in this model?
I'd be happy to do that. My name is Elaine Fox. I'm the Executive Director of Student Services, and I will kind of mention our overall model and then ask any of our administrative team members from Student Services that are here to see if they have anything to add. Our main model that we use, as you probably know by now, is we have our students with IEPs included with our gen ed students when they're getting their main instruction. So our special ed teachers and our general education teachers are collaborating, and students are getting their specially designed instruction to a large degree in the general education setting. So that's the first piece. The second piece is our specialists are available usually on Wednesdays, but also all other days to work with students on any particular issues that they need to work on that are not addressed in the general education setting. We have speech language pathologists that are working on a teletherapy model where they're working with students over the phone. And then we also have 2 evaluation centers for one-on-one in-person evaluations being done in the district. One is with our school psychologists, and they are evaluating for issues related to special education. And then the other one is with our speech language pathologists. So I'm going to ask Sarah Crane if she has any other input right now. Would you like to add anything to that, Sarah?
I think that you covered it all. The most important thing is that if you are worried about your child or worried about the program that's happening, please reach out to your child's case manager, because we really want to problem solve those things. And we're thinking very creatively. Case managers and all the teachers are working so hard. And if you're not seeing the results of that, or you're feeling like it's not working, then we need to come to the table and brainstorm so that we can come up with some solutions. We really want there to be some successes in CDL, and we know that that might be hard and it might take some creative thinking. So we're here to do that thinking with you and your family and try to make it work for your child.
Okay, thank you. So some parents might be wondering where they can access additional supports for their student, tutoring or homework help or other resources. Could you share a little bit about how they might go about getting that support for their student?
Yeah, thank you. We know that that's a common question. First of all, we know that our teachers, I've had the opportunity to visit a variety of classrooms this year. And just yesterday, I was dropping in on middle school classrooms, and I've had the opportunity to visit high school as well as several elementary classrooms. And the first thing I'll say is that I'm really thankful for the work that our teaching staff has done in order to get those lessons to be as engaging as possible, and to put into play some of those best practices that we know are out that are useful when it comes to distance learning. If you were to be able to compare the instructional opportunity that students engaged in the spring, when we didn't have a warning that we were going to be out into distance learning, and they made an incredibly quick pivot in order to do that in the spring. But just the growth that we've seen in the last several months, and the instruction that's being provided now is very useful. We do know that many of our teachers, I think most of our teachers now, have office hours that are set aside, so they have an opportunity for students to come in and get that individual attention from them, whether that be on Wednesday or whether that be other times that are set aside. We do have those opportunities with our teachers as well, and that would be the first place, of course, that we would like people to access, because they, of course, are the most familiar with the curriculum and the most familiar with your students. There's also additional resources out there in the community. We have the library system has tutoring available to them. To our students. There's homework help. There's links to live assistance when it comes to language arts and math and science and social studies and writing. There's writing lab opportunities. There's a variety of services that are available just through the Washington County Library as well. But I think our first choice is our first goal would be for you to access the teacher during some of those set aside times that are available. And Dale or Travis, I'd be happy to have you share a little bit more about that if you would like to.
Mike, the only thing I'd add, that was a great summary, is in elementary school, we have what I need time, or win time. And so when you see your students breaking out into small groups, the purpose of that time is that they receive the interventions or the enrichment and extensions that they need in literacy or in math. And so again, just to reinforce what you said, if you don't see your student getting the support they need, please reach out to the teachers who are providing that midday intervention or the win time, usually at the end of the instructional day. Thanks.
And I would just add on as well that at the middle and high school level, we have graduation coaches, and due to the structure of how we are teaching and learning right now, we have additional para support, teacher assistant time throughout the day. So I just really encourage you to stay in contact with your child's teacher. You can call the school, you can email, you can text. There's lots of ways to get in touch. I think the number one thing we're finding is that families think that their kids are online and therefore they're engaged in learning and instruction, and perhaps they're not. And so just being able to follow up with Parent View and check in on the progress of your student, and just stay in contact with the teachers. We have resources. Again, it's just very difficult when we can't see our kids in the same way face to face to know what areas they might be struggling. So we're just really leaning on the partnership with you to support your student in the way that they need.
Thank you. Hey, Beth, before we move on, I know we do have a couple board members on here, and I did want to give them the opportunity to just share any words that they would like to. They are folks that are very engaged throughout the community, and they're in different portions of the community, and even have the opportunity to interact with different people just as board members. And so I wanted to see if Martin, I see him at the top of my list, and then I can throw it over to Yadira following that. But Martin, is there anything you wanted to share with any community members that may be listening, just in terms of your thoughts or some of the protocol or procedures that we currently have in place, or what you're hearing in the community? Anything you'd like to share?
No, other than thank you for providing this opportunity for the community to engage so directly with the people who are making it happen. my lens is through my granddaughter, and she's having a kindergarten experience that's rather unique and quite remarkable. So in this COVID-19 time, there are opportunities. Capitalize on those unique opportunities that this model presents. And it takes a lot of effort on the part of the home, the family, the adult with the child as they do the comprehensive distance learning. So we can't underestimate the level of effort it's going to take on the home side in this scenario. Moms and dads and adults in the house need to be engaged, and I would just that's just part of the deal in this time. So thank you, Mike.
All right, and I know Yadira has some experience with that as well, because she is living that right now with in her household. Yadira, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I just wanted to say good morning to everyone, and thank you for joining us here. But yeah, I actually am going to go in there right now, wake up my daughter, make sure she gets breakfast so we can start going online. But yes, I've been know what the comprehensive distance learning in, and I just got to give shout outs to HSD. I think it's been great. I think as far as our household, we're getting into the groove of it, and we feel like we have a good thing going now. I do admit the first few weeks were hectic and that learning curve, but now we found our stride. So I totally understand and appreciate what all families are going through, because yes, we've had to find different solutions as far as keeping 3 kids that are trying to do distance learning separate so that everybody can hear what their class teacher is saying, respond to what they're saying. So it's been challenging, but we're getting through it and we're managing. But HSC, I feel staff has been doing an awesome job. Teachers using I've had more communication with my daughter's teacher now than I ever did, even when she was in the classroom last year. So that's awesome, being able to email and text, and getting responses right away. But yeah, but as far as everything else that we've covered today, I've just been hearing mostly about opening up, the fields and the playgrounds and all of that, which I think we've covered pretty well.
All right, thank you, Yadira. For those of you that have been attending the board meetings remotely, you probably noticed that the last several months, and that's the issue of school resource officers. And I just wanted to touch on that really briefly. That's something that we get questions about from time to time. And school resource officers, for those of you who are not very aware of what they do, they are law enforcement professionals that have been assigned to the schools in the district. And those are officers that the city of Hillsboro in Washington County, they pay for a majority of that. And that has been a partnership that's been going on for years and years. In light of questions regarding law enforcement that's been going on throughout the nation, we wanted to make sure that we were engaging in a process that would allow us to have some assurance that all of our students feel comfortable in our schools. And so over the last several months, we have been engaged in this process to better understand what concerns some community members or family members or students may have when it comes to the presence of school resource officers in our building. And it's been a comprehensive conversation that the board has engaged in throughout the last several months, and it will continue for the next couple of months. Our goal there is to understand what the issues and concerns are for some of our students, and then to start determining if we can find a way to address those issues. One of the things that we've looked at is to put together a document that allows us to identify the concerns that we've heard in the community, and then see if there's a way that we can address those concerns. Over the next couple months, that's what we'll be engaged in. We've got an opportunity for the board members to also have a joint meeting with city council members, and I think that's going to be a enlightening conversation, just a great opportunity for our public officials to engage in conversation. And then in the next couple months, we'll make a decision about what our relationship with school resource officer looks resource officers look like moving forward. But we're deeply appreciative with law enforcement for years and years. We know officers that are currently in our buildings are building relationships on a daily basis. And we also realize through this process that there's some areas that we need to address and improve upon. So we're going to be seeing if we can address those areas, and we'll be making a final determination about what it looks like as we move forward. And that will happen within the next couple months. So I know there's questions around that sometimes, and I just wanted to get that out there for people.
Thank you, Mike. I have a couple of follow-up questions on comprehensive distance learning that perhaps are best directed toward Dale. One is, do we know the percentage of students enrolled in CDL that are actually attending their online classes? This person writes, when I see the Zoom screen for my elementary children, I don't see more than 15 kids. For my high schools, there are even less. And they typically don't have their video on, so they might not even be participating.
Sure. So there's many ways to attend and engage in comprehensive distance learning. Some students are live and in person at a given time with or without their screen on. And some kids participate by doing asynchronous or off live time. All the classes and the lessons are video recorded. And so sometimes students, because of their daycare situation or family situation or work needs, are not able to engage, and therefore they participate at a different time of day. So I would say overall our attendance is good. We're excited about the attendance that we're seeing in our classrooms. Again, it's counted in a variety of ways. And students who are not engaging, we are utilizing our resources and our supports and see if there's any barriers to their engagement. So I think it's on any given day, it's probably a little less than what we would see in brick and mortar, but pleased with the number of students who are engaged in distance learning at any given day.
Great. And then another patron writes in that their children have commented that the high school classes maybe aren't as rigorous, but they've been mostly review. What is the plan to catch the general population of students back up to where they're supposed to be, especially in preparing students for AP or IB classes or the rigor of future college courses?
Well, I have a senior, and she at times has friends over, and they take AP classes and IB classes, and I kind of see that percolating at my kitchen table quite frequently. So I can attest as a mom that there are a lot of rigorous instructional methods and activities that are being done. So I would say if you feel that your child is not being challenged, or you don't feel like the level of rigor, especially in some of our higher classes, is not meeting your students' needs, to reach out to the teacher or the principal, because we definitely want to make sure that that's happening. That being said, we know that the amount of time that our students are engaged in live instruction is not at that same level. And so we will continue to provide additional supports, asynchronous lessons. I know, watching my daughter and her friends in some of their classes, their teachers are doing an excellent job of providing asynchronous activities, readings, videos, opportunities for collaboration outside the school day. So I think we're doing a really great effort, and we know that CDL does offer some challenges that brick and mortar does not. So I think the big challenge when we finally get to be all together is to see what our students need, and where are the gaps, and where were we successful, and how to meet every student's individual needs. So I'm not exactly sure what that might look like, but I think it every day it feels better, and I think we just need to continue to do the best we can and support our kids and staff, and we'll see how we need to adjust into the future. I know all the AP and IB teachers are very cognizant of making sure that the students are prepared for those tests, and are providing lots of practice. Again, I see it at my kitchen table around preparing for those orals for IB, and understanding kind of the structure of the AP tests as they prepare for them. So I'm really proud of the efforts of our teachers.
One of the questions that we often get is, and Dale kind of alluded to this, what is it going to look like when we return to distance learning or can return to in-person learning when we have the opportunity to do that? And we hear from parents who are on each end of the opinion spectrum on this. We've got parents that say, you know, I don't think I'm going to be comfortable sending my child back to school this year. And that's something that we hear on a fairly regular basis. We also hear from parents that say, hey, as soon as it's open, I feel like it's safe to send my child back. So we know that when we come back, when we have the opportunity to come back to in-person learning, that's going to have to be offered in a variety of different ways. So I just want to put out there that we will continue to have a distance learning opportunity for families who want to make that their choice that for the remainder of the year or for whatever period of time is going to be necessary here for that comfort level to increase. We also, of course, will have those in-person opportunities when the metrics allow us to do that. But that's a common question that we get. We have a number of families that are currently accessing Hillsboro Online Academy. And we're well over 1,000 families that are doing that now. And that's been a great resource for some of our families as well. So we really see 3 different opportunities as we move into the future. We've, of course, got Hillsboro Online Academy. We will continue to have a distance learning option if that's what works best for your family. And of course, when available, we'll have that in-person opportunity that would start out in a hybrid model.
Thank you, Dale and Mike. And I would like to direct a question toward our Chief Information and Technology Officer, Jordan Beveridge, because we have him on the screen today. So obviously, comprehensive distance learning is predicated upon broad access to technology and the internet. So can you give us just a little update on how we are ensuring that all of our students and staff have that connectivity?
Yes, thanks, Beth. Again, Jordan Beveridge, Chief Information Technology Officer. We've given out just over 2,000 hotspots to our students and families that they're using to access distance learning. We also have a number of families that have taken advantage of the Comcast Internet Essentials program, and we'll continue to promote that as we are able to provide them, if they qualify for that program, with Comcast Internet, and we are paying for that over the next months to assist those families in accessing comprehensive distance learning. We have additional hotspots coming in. We continue to hear that there is a need, and those, as families connect with their schools and or families that have multiple students that are doing distance learning and the need for a second device. So we have started to provide multiple devices to families, both Chromebooks and hotspots. So if there's still families that need those, if they contact their school, we'll make sure and give them the resources they need.
And Jordan, we do have a specific student and family technology helpline. Is that correct? Could you share that phone number on the chat here or during the meeting?
Yeah, let me pull that up quick, and I can give it.
And so yeah, that support goes into the evenings. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the student and family helpline, we've got both an email address and phone number that they can reach out to, and we do monitor that from 7:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. After 4 p.m., many times the families would leave a message and we call them back, and so that's offered support. We've been doing that since just before school started, and so that's been a nice resource for our students and families. There's also the online Just Help site that is in both English and Spanish for families, where we've tried to put a lot of resources and videos for the most common issues that people need to address. Let me grab that phone number.
Okay, while you're looking for that, We've had somebody ask for a quick update on how the school bus meal distribution process is going.
I can start with that process, and then I don't believe we have Nate on here, but Casey can assist with that. One of the things that we knew was going to be incredibly important is to continue to get meals out to our students who need those. Since that time, there's been some even additional loosening up of who we can provide those meals to. But starting in the spring, we took the stance that we needed to make sure that our students were being fed so that they could continue to access instruction in a very meaningful way. And so we have used our buses to get meals out to kids. We have refined the process and the protocol pretty thoroughly over the last several months, but we go out every day and we provide that breakfast and those lunch opportunities for our kids. I'll let Casey share a little more information regarding some of the details.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. The meal distribution program has really been overwhelmingly successful. You know, we attempted to we did this in the spring on a fairly limited basis where we ran routes throughout the community. This fall, we've actually almost replicated our normal route system so that students only have to go a short ways to their bus stop to get their meals. So the way that it works right now is the buses show up at a designated kitchen that we have prepared the meals, and then staff on the bus go out on their route, and students have a designated time of their bus stop so they can run out and get their meal, and then they're shooed back into their homes to make sure they get back into school because some of the meal times are not exactly on their breaks. So I believe that we are averaging in the 6,000 meals a day range. That's kind of a safe number. So that's quite an uptick from the spring. And so far, it's been really well received. Students and families love seeing the bus come down and have some interaction while they get their meals, and then they're able to get right back into school.
Thank you. So we have had some questions recently around social causes, and specifically Black Lives Matter, as we see staff, students perhaps wearing t-shirts that have social justice messages on them during live lessons, things like that. And what's our position on that?
Yeah, good question. So this is one of those topics that we know is nationwide is polarizing. And so as a school district, one of the things that we do is we work to make sure that we have a firm understanding of what students' rights are and what staff's rights are when it comes to free speech. So this is a topic that has been debated for years and years when it comes to what rights students and staff have around social causes or around political causes within the classroom or while at school. One of the things that we were able to do is we were able to verify there is an organization out there, and that's a U.S. Office of Special Counsel, and that's an independent federal agency. We were also able to get information from the Oregon School Boards Association, and the determination has been made that Black Lives Matter is not a political statement, nor is it associated with a specific political candidate. And for that reason, it is determined as a social justice issue or a social cause, and that allows for students and staff members to either have a sign in the background, they can wear apparel that would say BLM, and that is something that is allowable. So expression or support for various social causes or people has been classified as freedom of speech, not political speech, and employees may display messaging to that. And they're permitted and provided with some exceptions as well. Excuse me. Of course, it can't promote any hateful or offensive language. There can't be a verbal attack or work to influence a decision or influence towards a particular candidate. can't promote violence or criminal activity, and it can't disrupt the learning environment. So we've been answering questions about this. I recently sent out a letter on that with the intent of clarifying social issue or political issue and how that's been defined for us. We, of course, as a district, we value the equity work that we've been doing with our students and our staff members for the last 10 years. And we want to make sure, of course, that all of our students are reflected within not only our curriculum, but are valued and understood within our schools. And so that it's a responsibility that we take very seriously. At the same time, we're careful to follow the guidance that comes out from Secretary of State's office, Oregon School Board Association, as well as the federal organization that I mentioned. So that is our stance as a district on that. And if there's any staff members that want to share anything that I may have left out, please feel free to enhance that answer a bit.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. And
so we, of course, are always thinking about the safety of our students. We are also always thinking about the safety of our staff members. And while I'm just got a second, and I've mentioned staff members, I would just say that I would like to just thank our staff publicly here. We have had the opportunity to repurpose a number of our staff for some of those jobs that are not as accessible during distance learning. We've had the opportunity to repurpose some staff members and have them assist us in a variety of different ways, whether that's meal distribution or whether that's working outside on some of the maintenance projects that we've had, or whatever the case may be. We are very thankful to have had staff members that are willing to step up and to do whatever it takes in order to get through this difficult time. We've had licensed staff members that have transitioned into other jobs to meet the needs of our students, and we're just very thankful for that. One of our goals always is, regardless of if we have students in the building or not, whether it's staff members that are there, we want to make sure that we are exercising every safety protocol that we can in order to ensure their safety. So to that end, we, as we have staff members enter the building, we do require that they have a daily check-in and check-out, and there's a health questionnaire that they, of course, answer. There's equipment available, whether that's masks or gloves or hand sanitizers or disinfectant wipes. Those are available and expected to be used. Those are at each entrance where people come in. We've got signage posted throughout the building for the use of PPE, personal hygiene practices or physical distancing, illness reporting, encouraging people to stay home if they're not feeling well. We've got that posted throughout the building. We require that masks are worn while people are indoors, unless they're in a room where a door can be closed or they're in a space that they're isolated. We expect that masks be worn. We've also increased the amount of air that's being circulated in our buildings in our HVAC systems. The filters are checked and changed regularly. We've increased the outside airflow to make sure that it is moving significantly more even than in the past. And it is also continuously moving during the time when the buildings are occupied. We also have a process in the evenings where we can force additional outside air into the building to make sure that circulation is happening to a large degree. We've also, of course, asked, and our expectation is that if we have a staff or a student that is not feeling well, if they've tested positive for COVID-19, we want to make sure that they have informed their supervisor or their principal. Even if they've not been in the building lately, which is the case for most of our staff members, we want to make sure that we are being notified and that we can do the necessary contact tracing, etc. So those are some of the protocols that we currently have available that we're currently utilizing in our various facilities throughout the district.
okay. Well, we're kind of winding down on our time, but I have an easy question, maybe. that just came in. Are we going to be able to get school pictures for our elementary students this year? Does anybody know that?
I believe that those currently have been scheduled for the spring. Our hope is that those would occur in the spring. And I would be happy to defer that to someone else who may have some more specifics on that. Is there anyone that can help us with that? Yeah, thank you, Travis.
I can bring that up at the Blueprint team. We have not considered that yet as a team.
The last conversation I had around that was approximately a month ago. And at that time, the goal was to have those scheduled for the spring. And we will get an update for you. That was the plan a month ago.
Okay. One thing that we haven't touched on, and I know that we've got Olga Acuna in the meeting, and maybe she would be so kind as to talk a little bit about community supports that are available for families who might be struggling right now. I know you manage a whole team of folks whose entire mission is to make sure that our families and students are supported. So do you want to say a few words about that, Olga?
Of course. Thank you, Beth. Good morning, everyone. We have a team of family outreach liaisons, a small team that is situated at the central office. They are able to support schools with resources, questions, needs, resourcing out into the community. However, we also have family liaisons in the schools. And so my recommendation is that if there is a specific need, a resource that a family needs, to connect with the school first. Oftentimes when the schools don't have the liaison available at the moment, we'll reach out to the district to get some additional support from the district staff or from the district's team. So, resources that are in district are easier to access. Oftentimes, if there is a resource that is needed from the community, our family engagement liaisons have amazing partnerships and contacts, and they will know how to make a referral. So they are available throughout the day, even after hours, via phone, text messaging, email. The best way for a family to know who the liaison is to contact the school where their children go to school.
Thanks, Olga. That is a great reminder. Our school liaisons are working every day, and they're reaching out and contacting families. If you know of a family that could benefit from a connection from one of the school liaisons, please let your principal know. We'd be happy to get you connected. That is the work that they're doing on a daily basis. And Olga has a great team of folks there that is reaching out.
Okay, I believe Jordan is going to share his screen quickly to showcase some of that information for technology resources. Wonderful. So there's our family tech helpline and email address and the hours there for your reference. I just want to take a quick second to thank all of the people who took the time to fill out the Google form and submit their questions, and also those of you who joined our Remind class for coffee chats. There is another coffee chat that's from 1:30 to 2:30. So if any of you watching the live stream have just tuned in and have missed most of the conversation, there is another one that will be taking place on Friday afternoon. So please feel free to join that. We will also be accepting, obviously, new question submissions to both the form and the Remind group. So please avail yourselves of that if you'd like. And then just as a wrap up, I'd like to turn it back over to Mike.
All right, thanks, Beth. I just wanted the opportunity to say that we know that situation that we're currently in, we know this is a huge challenge for our families. It's also a huge challenge for our staff members. Not many people got into education to access kids via a computer or online. So we know this is a challenge. And I just want to thank our families. Our families have adapted incredibly well. And we know that means that you have had to turn your schedules upside down and rearrange things in your living quarters and just provide a space for your kids, and we appreciate that. We know this is not easy. It's not ideal, and we too are looking forward to the time where we are all back in person. That's where everyone does their best work, and we're very much looking forward to that time. So thanks for your many efforts and for your continued partnership during a very difficult time, and we look forward to welcoming your kids back as soon as it's safe to do so. Thank you for joining us this morning. We look forward to interacting again with you in the near future. Thanks, everybody.